I've never liked the Appalachians at night. There's something in those woods that makes the air feel heavier, like it's filled with memories no one was supposed to hear. Back in 2019, I was working as a line technician, checking old power routes that cut through the mountain valleys between Clay and Nicholas County, West Virginia, the kind of places that don't even show up right on GPS. They gave me a small cabin for the week. It sat alone at the edge of a service road, surrounded by pines that looked older than the town itself. The place had a wood stove, one bed, and a radio that barely worked when the wind wasn't blowing. No phone signal, no neighbors. The nearest gas station was nearly 20 miles down the hill. That first night, I was unpacking my tools when I heard something. It wasn't an animal, not the wind either. It was a voice, a girl's voice, distant, fragile. At first, I thought it was an echo, maybe kids camping somewhere deeper in the ridge. But then it came again, clearer this time. Is anyone there? I stepped outside with my flashlight. The beam cut through a low fog crawling between the trees. Nothing moved. The forest smelled damp and metallic, like wet iron and moss. "Hello," I called. "Do you need help?" Silence. Just the distant rush of the river down the valley. I waited a minute, maybe two. And that's when the feeling hit me, that sense that the forest itself was listening. Every trunk, every shadow felt like eyes waiting for me to take one more step. I went back inside, locked the door, and turned on the radio. Static. Then, through the static, a whisper. A girl's voice again. But this time, it was coming from the radio, faint, distorted, but I heard it clearly.
"Don't listen to them."
The next morning, the fog still hadn't lifted. The treetops looked like they were floating over a white sea, and the valley below was silent. Too silent. I made coffee on the old stove, the kind that burns more smoke than heat, and tried to convince myself I'd imagined everything. But when I stepped outside, I saw the power pole behind the cabin. Its surface was scarred. Deep grooves in the wood, like claws, ran straight down from the top to the ground. The cable was humming, faintly, even though the line had been cut weeks ago. That's impossible, I thought. A dead line can't hum. I touched it. Warm. Around noon, I drove out along the service path to check the next relay. The deeper I went, the worse the static got on my truck's radio. At first, it was random noise, but then I caught fragments, like words buried under snow. North, ridge. She's waiting. The voice faded, then returned, clearer this time, repeating a string of numbers. Coordinates. They matched an area deep in the forest, far past any marked road. That night, back in the cabin, the forest felt alive. Branches cracked in perfect rhythm, like footsteps pacing the tree line. The wind carried something that wasn't quite a whisper, more like breathing. I told myself not to listen, but when the radio flicked on by itself again, I froze. The girl's voice was crying now, muffled, distant. "Please, help me." I grabbed the flashlight and stepped outside. My breath came out in clouds. "Where are you?" I yelled. "Tell me where you are." The crying stopped. For 5 long seconds, the woods were dead silent. Then, from somewhere in the dark, a voice answered. It wasn't the girl. It was me. My own voice, echoing from the forest, repeating my words back in the same tone. "Where are you?" It came again, closer. "Tell me where you are." My light shook in my hand. I turned back toward the cabin, and through the fog, I saw a figure standing by the power pole. Tall, thin, perfectly still. The line above it began to hum louder, vibrating until the air itself buzzed inside my ears. And then, as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. Only the sound remained, a low-frequency rumble that didn't stop until sunrise. I didn't sleep after that night. The sound never really stopped, it just sank under everything else, like a vibration living inside the walls. By morning, I'd made up my mind. If those coordinates were real, I needed to see what was there. The road turned to gravel, then to dirt, then to nothing at all. For 2 hours, I followed a narrow trail that wound through black pines and dead ferns. The further I went, the more the air felt wrong, thicker, charged, like the mountain was full of electricity waiting to crawl out of the ground. At the bottom of the hollow, I found it, a second cabin, half buried under moss and roots. No doors, just a warped frame and a roof barely holding on. The front porch had collapsed years ago, but the steps still showed footprints, small, barefoot, leading inside. I called out once. The echo came back twisted. Inside, it smelled of metal and mold. Drawings covered the walls, dozens of them, pinned with rusted nails. Children's drawings. Every page showed the same scene. A line of wooden poles cutting across a valley, and next to them, a tall figure sketched in black charcoal. No face, just a blur where the head should be. On the last page, the figure had wires coming out of its arms, reaching toward a little girl drawn in blue crayon. In the corner of the room sat an old radio transceiver, dust-covered but still humming softly. Its power cable had been ripped out long ago. I don't know why I touched it, maybe curiosity, maybe something else, but the second my fingers brushed the metal, the speaker crackled to life. Static first, then a faint recording. A girl's sobs, the same voice I'd heard the night before. "He said the wires talk," she whispered. "He said they can hear us." I stumbled back, hitting the wall. The air in that cabin felt heavier, as if something invisible had filled the space between me and the doorway. I turned to leave, but right there, etched into the wood beside the frame, I saw fresh letters carved deep. "She's underground." I ran. Branches tore my sleeves as I climbed back up the trail. The forest was completely silent again. No birds, no wind. Only the distant hum following me like an echo that didn't belong to the world. When I finally reached my truck, the engine refused to start. The radio inside, though, it turned on by itself. And the girl's voice said, clear as glass, "You found my house." I drove back up the mountain in silence. The road was mud and shadow, the kind of darkness that swallows your headlights whole. When the cabin finally appeared through the trees, I almost didn't recognize it. The porch light was on, flickering like a dying pulse. Inside, everything smelled of ozone, the sharp bite of burned metal. The power was still disconnected, yet the single bulb over the table glowed faintly, pulsing in time with a low hum coming from outside. I turned the radio dial, hoping for static. Instead, a steady rhythm answered. A beep, pause, beep, beep, pause, then a voice whispering between the clicks. "She's not alone in the woods." The voice looped, soft, patient, every repetition a little closer to my ear. I pulled the plug, but the sound didn't stop. The wires in the wall were vibrating, alive, like something breathing through them. Then, 3 knocks on the door, gentle, deliberate. I grabbed the flashlight, my hands shaking so hard the beam trembled across the floor. Another knock. I opened the door. No one. Only small, muddy footprints leading down the steps and into the trees. bare feet. A child's. The forest beyond the clearing was pale with fog, yet I could see movement. Something tall shifting between the trunks. I should have gone back inside. Instead, I whispered, "Where's the girl?" The figure paused. Its outline shimmered, as if heat distorted the air around it. Then it lifted its arm and pointed toward the power line stretching into the valley. The hum rose until my teeth vibrated. The poles leaned, creaking under a wind that wasn't there. And from far below, carried through the wires like a recording trapped in copper, came her voice, terrified, pleading, "Don't let them in again." I stumbled backward into the cabin. The radio burst to life behind me, channels switching by themselves, each one repeating a single word, overlapping into chaos. "Return, return, return." I slammed the radio off, but the sound kept echoing from outside, bouncing off the valley walls. When it finally stopped, I realized something that froze my blood. The poles weren't humming anymore. They were whispering. That night, I couldn't tell if I was awake or dreaming. The hum came back around midnight, soft at first, like thunder far away. Then it grew, vibrating through the floorboards, through the walls, through my own bones. The bulb overhead flickered and burst. The radio switched on by itself, speaker hissing. Through the static came 100 overlapping voices, men, women, children, all speaking at once, all whispering the same thing. "She's under the ground, and we are in the wires." Every light in the cabin began to pulse, one after another, like the heartbeat of something enormous crawling beneath the mountain. The air turned metallic, sharp enough to taste. Then the girl screamed, a sound so raw and human it tore through every other noise. I covered my ears, but it didn't stop. It was inside my head. "They found me," she cried. "He's in the line." I ran outside. The night sky was red behind the tree line. Every power pole was shaking, wires glowing like veins under skin. Something was moving along them, fast, rushing down the mountain in sparks and flashes. I don't remember much after that. Just the light, and a sound like 1,000 voices inhaling at once. When I woke up, it was morning. The forest was silent again. Every pole had fallen, the wires were cut clean through, ends blackened like they'd been burned from the inside. The truck started on the first try. I didn't look back. But sometimes, when it rains and the storm hits the lines behind my house, I still hear her voice, faint, echoing through the thunder. Don't listen to them. And then, if you wait long enough, the hum answers back. If you felt the chill too, give this video a like. Drop a comment telling me what you think happened in those mountains. And subscribe to the Horror States for more true American nightmares from the deep woods. New stories every week, and remember, some echoes never stop.